This is the Relationship Capital Podcast, where we talk to the top thought leaders and practitioners from around the world about how to grow your most valuable resource, your network. I'm your host, Adrian Chenault, and Relationship Capital is brought to you by your friends at Contact Mapping, the #1 app for building your network. Hey everybody, it's Adrian and welcome to the Relationship Capital Podcast. I am really excited today to be joined by Joy Kelly, who is just an absolute beast on social media and in network marketing, and somebody who I have been admiring from afar, and now I have gotten to be her friend, which makes me really happy. So hey Joy, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Adrian. So fun.
This is really fun. So I always start off with a question that I think applies to all of our audience. And so I want to start there, and then we'll dive into a little bit more of your background and some of the things that you've been up to. But before we go there, just thinking about somebody who is trying to build a successful business and they're trying to really use relationships in the right way in order to do that. What's your #1 tip for how to develop effective relationships to grow your business?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Are you talking network marketing, or are you talking in any business?
I mean, I think the principles apply everywhere, so feel free to take it whichever direction.
Yeah, I mean, they really do. I mean, the one thing is that there's a book out there talking about how you really want to look at how can you serve this person? Like, what can you do? How can you do something that adds value to their life? Instead of, when people first get involved, especially in a network marketing business or in a business in general, you start to look at every single person that they meet as like, oh, I could recruit this person. I could bring this person into my sphere without really knowing the person at all. This relationships aren't just anything. You've heard this said before. They're everything. And really becoming a person that is genuinely interested in other people.
Yeah.
Genuinely. My mom was a music teacher, and she was genuinely interested in everyone that she came across. And she wasn't selling anything, but she was just genuinely interested in knowing more about them, and to really come from that place of curiosity, because that's what we want our customers to have, is curiosity about what we do, right? And we've got to be curious about their lives and what's going on for them. I think that remembering things about people, and I know that the contact mapping is really good for that. And I just got to get better at it. But to remember to know little things like, oh, your child's name is XYZ. And I'm president of our company. When I first met him 25 years ago, we always had a fun run before our conferences. And I remember him running up behind me. He was a good runner, and helping me to make it through the last mile of the race, which was all uphill.
Wow.
And during that time, I was brand new with this company, and he talked me through it by asking me about my family. And the next time that I saw him, he asked about my father and my mother by name, and just blew my mind. It's just really the epitome of building relationships. And I've stayed loyal to him now for 25 years, partly because of that.
Isn't it incredible? I mean, those little things can have the most profound impact on us. And it's the little intangibles that make all the difference. And so few of us, I think, are doing those things anymore that it becomes even more of an advantage in many ways, I think, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because you have to think about, in this type of a business, or in any business really, you're creating relationships for the rest of your life, hopefully. That these are people that you're going to want to be around for the rest of your life, whether they're your customers, whether they're your distributors. Last night we had an Oscar party here, and I had friends over that I've known the entire 25 years that I've been in this business, and they're not in my organization. I don't stand to gain anything from them, but they're great friends. And if I can just keep that attitude about anyone that I'm meeting, whether they're going to join my business or buy from me, I don't want to genuinely like them that much.
That's so true. That's so true. And so as thinking back, you've been in this profession for a long time, and you've probably tried a lot of things. You've had to learn as you went. Is there a point or kind of a moment where you felt like you learned how to cultivate that interest in others or cultivate relationships in a better way? Or do you feel like that was something that came natural to you and that's part of what gave you the success you've had? Like, how did that go for you at the beginning?
Well, I've always been curious about people. My background is in fitness, and so I wanted to know more about my students always. And I think that having a mom like I had, had me do that naturally too. I didn't see how it equated to business right away until you started to see that, oh, I've had this person in my life for 9 months or a year, and I was not even thinking about whether or not they were a potential customer or a potential member of my team. But now it's logical that they would become one or the other just because we've been in relationships. So I started to see more, not from a calculated standpoint, but just that that's what happens. When people know, like, and trust you, I just started playing tennis this year. And these women have been playing tennis together, some of them for 30 years that I play with. And it's really neat to have them let me into their circle and to ask me for advice about things, which I really, really find flattering. But the podcast.
Absolutely. Sorry, it cut out for just a second, but we're back. So hopefully that's okay on the recording.
Okay.
So you have been in the profession for 25 years, but you have, over the last several years, kind of gone on to a next wave of doing something a little different, and you've brought in a pretty important new business partner in your life. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my daughter was 7 when I started with this endeavor, and she was my stamp licker, and as she got older, she would take on more and more tasks for me, kind of becoming my assistant. And I'd always hoped that she would join me in this business, but she always felt like she had to be one of those people that, talked to people in the grocery store and made phone calls and all of that. And she just didn't think that she could ever do that. But she knew that she wanted to have the kind of freedom that I was able to build for our family. And so when social media became such a big thing, she was like, okay, I can do that. I can do. And when she graduated from college, she, started to kind of get her feet wet a little bit. And then she really quickly mastered using social media as a way to be connected with people that she was already connected with anyway, and to expand her reach. And so she was able to do online, what I had done offline, and kind of drag me kicking and screaming into it. And we work together now, which is super fun. She does more of the social media type things. I do more of our email automations and more of our blogging and that sort of thing. I'm still not crackerjack at social media stuff, but I do see that it's no different than techniques that we've used in the past. It's just what we're trying to do is have a funnel, a big funnel that people are coming into. And in the past, we would do it through either making that list, because that's what we did, or through doing trade shows or taking out newspaper ads. I know there are people who used to put up flyers and that sort of thing. I never did that. Yeah. But it's still the same thing. It's having people to talk to, and then getting into a relationship with them and being somebody that they want to know, that they want to like, that they want to trust, so much so that they want to actually do business with you. So it's really similar, actually. Really, really similar. It's just new techniques of filling that funnel.
Absolutely. And so I love that. And I love the marrying of those two things that I think all of us are doing in some regard, but I think kind of the intersection of you and your daughter, Jake, working together, it really kind of puts that on full display. And so, what's one thing, can you think of a moment where maybe there's something where, like, there's this kind of new school way of doing stuff, but you've been able to go, well, hold on a minute, like, we need to think back to sort of the first principles of how I did it, 20 years ago, and bring that into how we're approaching this sort of digital media, social media sort of a thing, in order to have an authenticity to it.
Well, that's what it really does come down to relationships, because people think that you're going to do this digital online marketing, and all of a sudden just people are going to sign up on your website and they're going to do this, and that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It may happen for your parent company because you've got that brand out there. But yep. until you've got that big of a brand, it's even then you have to. I know some of the bigs in this industry, and they still have to reach out and get into a relationship. They still have to pick up the phone or get on Zoom. I love Zoom because you get to see people and get to see what's, going on for them, and really get a glimpse into who they are and what their life is. So I think that the new school stuff, the digital stuff, it makes things go fast.
Yep.
It makes it go fast, but you still got to go back to, you got to be in a relationship with people. And that's why it's so important to keep track of, oh, shoot, who am I supposed to be talking to today?
Yeah. Yeah.
So important.
Well, and so you mentioned the phone, and I'm baiting you a little bit here because you guys did something really interesting that I have actually emulated with some of what we're doing with contact mapping around the phone. So you guys you have this website, you have all this cool stuff happening where people are coming and finding you, but you found that getting people on there's just no substitute for actually getting voice to voice with somebody. So talk about that and how that has had an impact on your guys' business.
Yeah. So what's really interesting is that when my daughter first started in this business, she would always put up memes like, sorry, I didn't answer the phone when you called. I don't use it for that. And just all these different jokes. She stuff about, texting, you're sitting across from each other and texting instead of picking up the phone. But what we discovered when we've been going down this path of online marketing now for almost 4 years. And what turned the floodgates on, what opened the floodgates was actually calling people. So getting their phone numbers through online marketing and then actually reaching out to them and talking to them. And people are shocked.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, you're a real person. I'm a real person. And so, yeah, so it's really, it's really opened up a whole huge floodgate of people coming to us and then us getting to get into their life and be related. So it's very cool.
That is so cool. And I think that's a real breakthrough. Like for me, right? Like, Jake and Joy, like you guys are online famous, right? Like, and so it's like, but even you, where in my mind, they're like, oh man, these, they have so much sort of brand equity, brand affinity, whatever you want to call it, that surely like that carries the day. But in fact, even in that scenario, just what happens when you actually pick up the phone and get voice to voice with people is huge. You look at Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you've seen it, but he's like text me, and he's all the time like on Twitter being like, no, seriously, it's me, and like sending people selfies and all this kind of stuff. Like that's like the epitome, right? Like this huge brand, millions of followers, and he clearly is seeing the value in actually having a direct connection with people in his audience. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah, totally. It reminds me of Mr. Rogers, because the Oscars were last night. So
yeah.
So I mean, I think that was Mr. Rogers' appeal. Is that he really let people in, and people felt like they knew him, and that's who I want to be to my customers, to my distributors, to my competitors. I want them to know me and like me. Know me, like me, trust me.
Yeah. To really and to have that be a two-way street, right? To have it be a true relationship that you're building, and not just they're your follower.
Right. And that's the thing about this business that I do really love, is that we do get to choose who we work with.
Yeah.
We don't need to take on people that we don't know, like, and trust.
Yep.
So
that's an amazing
cool
thing.
Yeah.
And what about it in the other direction? As you have been partnering with Jake and diving in, you guys have really become students of the game. What's something that you have learned over the last year or two that has really just gotten you excited about the future of the business that you're building?
Well, I love how many young people are getting into this, and I love how many, I especially work with young women, giving them options, for so many millennials want to feel like what they're doing is making a living. I mean, making a difference, but they also want to be able to make a living doing it and not have to sacrifice time with family, time to do the things that they love. And so I think that in my, not so much my generation, but maybe my parents' generation, people did what they had to do. There wasn't like, do what you love and the money will follow. That didn't exist. It was like, what can you get a job doing that will support your family? Yeah. And I feel like this being able to do something that you're passionate about and that gives back, that that gets me excited. That gets me excited, and it gets me excited to see, young people having something that they can do that they're excited about doing, excited about getting up and in the morning, and also excited about getting connected with people, because I think the statistics are something like 20% of Americans are clinically, they can be diagnosed as being lonely. 20% of Americans. So, going back to phone calls, if I can make someone's day just by having a conversation with them, by being a real person on the other end of the line, is that how cool is that?
Yeah.
So that's thrilling.
That's huge. And to your comment on kind of this younger generation, I think in so many ways the paradox is that back then you had this idea of like, well, just get a job and keep your head down and stay in your lane. Like that is actually not only is that not the way anymore, like that's not even really possible anymore. There isn't something that's just going to take care of you and you just, one foot in front of the other. Like you have to go and cultivate this passion. And I think you have to go and build a career. A career is not laid out for you on a silver platter anymore. And so I think it's a great time for you to be able to mentor these young women and to help them to find that for themselves and to be able to earn a great living while doing it.
Yeah. Super cool.
Awesome.
Super cool. I feel I'm I don't even want to use the word grateful, because I like to use the word appreciative. It's a financial term.
Yeah.
And I appreciate this opportunity so much. Appreciate it.
So last question, you've been somebody who has had a great deal of success, who's still on the front line, still on the cutting edge. Any last piece of advice or wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners in terms of building a successful business?
Well, really to have fun with it, because we always think that like once we get to this place, then we're going to be happy, and maybe for a minute, but everyone says the joy is in the journey, but really what they mean is I'm just going to put up with this suckiness until I get what I want. and instead of really appreciating it. I mean, everyone says it when they're parents, when they become parents, that like it goes by so fast, and this career goes by so fast. I'm in my 25th year of doing this, and I want to, 25 years from now, be able to look back and go, wow, those last 25 years were super fun. So, I mean, just to always remember to have fun with it.
That's
really important.
Great advice that I could do well to take of my own more often. So thank you for that. That's great parting wisdom. And Joy Kelly, thank you so much for being with us today. It's really fun to talk with you, and thanks for sharing all your wisdom.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.